Hello and welcome to Pastor's Library. This is the channel where we talk everything about Christian books, books that might be on a reading list for your bachelor's or master's degree or for a seminary course, or maybe even books that have just piqued your interest in a Christian bookstore or in your pastor's library. So today we're going to... What? Oh, we're not? Right, today I'm going to show you around my library. A lot of you have asked, so this is it. We're not going to take forever with it, but I might point to a few books. So, up here, this is actually the bit of shelving that I use for filming Pastor's Library. I reach over here and get books. And there's a few things on here which I've either recently filmed or I'm about to film, so you may get a clue from the shelf. But over on this long wall, you will see the vast majority of my commentary range. Now, about a third of my library are commentaries. Some people tell me I've overdone it on commentaries, but these are what I use the most, and I find them very, very helpful. We've got stacked in the range that they're part of. So at the top here, we've got interpretation, we've got the For Everyone series, and we've got a number of sort of one-offs where I haven't got any more of the series. Then we've got the New International Commentary on the Old Testament, the New International Greek Testament Commentary, and then we've got the New International Commentary on the New Testament, all of which are complete series. All that are out I've got, basically. Then down here, we've got some of the Apollos range, some of the SPCK range. Along here, we've got some of the Spectrum books that are the ones you go to where 3 views of the atonement or 4 views of communion or things like that. And they're all very helpful books to me. Along here, we have a shelf that is devoted to Craig Keener because he's written loads of fantastic commentaries. From his 4 volumes on the Book of Acts to his standalone on 1 Peter. Those are brilliant. Then below that, we've got the NIVAC range, New International Version Application Commentary. And then down the bottom, the rest of the NIVACs, and we go into the Two Horizons commentary. So that's one column. And then up here, we've got the Word Biblical Commentaries, the Old Testament and New Testament, interspaced with Word Biblical Themes where relevant. Again, I've collected all of those over the years. And then here's my set that I often talk about. If there was a fire, I would want to grab them first. This is the New Beacon Bible Commentary series. And these are really excellent modern commentaries without a shred of Calvinistic leaning. A couple of other commentaries that I've collected 1 or 2 of, the Septuagint commentaries. Then this is a really brilliant range here, the Hermeneia commentary range. The yellow ones are Old Testament, the red ones are New Testament. This isn't a complete set, partly because they haven't completed issuing them yet, but also because some have been updated and I haven't got the updates. But I've got a very, very complete, if not exhaustive, set of them. 2 books that everyone should have: the IVP Bible Background Commentary on the Old and the New Testament. Those are absolutely brilliant books. Great commentaries to have whatever you're studying. Few more one-offs, and then we go to the Story of God commentaries. Then I've got a half shelf of Ben Witherington's commentaries at the bottom, which are some of the finest commentaries I have ever read. Then the New Interpreter's Bible Commentary, which is a large swathe of a shelf there. A couple of other maybe unusual ones. I've got a couple of the Sacra Pagina ones, which are Catholic ones. They're excellent, actually. 4 commentaries that one would never think of by Michael Card, the gospel singer. He did Matthew, Mark, Luke and John, and you shouldn't ignore them. Over here, I've got some of the pillar commentaries, some single volume commentaries, and the Abingdon commentaries. This is the start of the Illuminations series. There are only 2 of them out, but I intend to collect those. They're very good. We've got the series of Cambridge Theology, book by book series. That's good. Some of the Baker exegetical commentaries on the New Testament. The new commentaries by Scott McKnight, which are the everyday Bible study commentaries. Again, I've got all the ones that are out on that. They're remarkably cheap and very, very accessible to anybody. A good read. Going down, I've got the Discovering range of books, like Discovering Genesis, Discovering Exodus, and so on. I've got some of the Through Old Testament Eyes commentaries and the Pentecostal commentaries, of which there may not be many, but they tend to be very good. Then I've got the Anchor Bible commentaries, again, only some of those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only about 8 of those. I've got the New Covenant commentary series. Again, all of them that are out. I really value those. I think they're excellent. Again, at the bottom, these are mainly sort of standalone commentaries, not particularly part of a series. So that is very much my range of commentaries. So this whole stand of books here are books that are in transit. Most of them I bought recently, or I am using them for a study that I'm working on currently. And these sort of come into here and then they go out somewhere permanent. But these are a sort of undecided yet quite where they're going to go. Then, round the corner, we have got Bibles floor to ceiling. Everything in this side is a Bible, except I've got the Mormon books down here and the New World Translation, the Jehovah's Witnesses translation. But other than that, I think these are all Bibles, all dependable. The others are for apologetics reasons, so that I don't have to make stuff up, but I can dispute with people where necessary. I don't think it's my calling to dispute with people, but sometimes it's necessary. This area in my library is mainly A to Z, except we've firstly got here a few thematic shelves, like music books, like my old Redemption hymnal, that goes back a while. A few books that have come out in series, like the Book of Acts in its ancient setting, and I think 7 books of fiction that are based on history, like A Week in the Fall of Jerusalem by Ben Witherington. Those are all useful and helpful books. And we go down, we start to go into biblical theology a little bit, interlinears, some Pentecostal theology, some Old Testament theology, Goldingay's 3 set there. We've got the Dictionary of Beliefs on Demons in the Bible, a great piece of work, costs an arm and a leg, but excellent. And sort of a little bit of a drift into concordances. And then, if we go back up to the top, we start at A and go along. So along the very top, we've got A's and B's, and then down to the next shelf, we've got the B's, and these tend to be by author. So Bailey's got a section, Richard Borkham's got a big section, Beale has got a section, Bird has got a section, Boyd. These are all people that I enjoy reading, and there's a lot of it. Then we're coming down to C's, and Eventually we get to D's. We've got a section on James Dunn here, a number of books on the E's and F's. The F's, we've got some good oldies actually by Austin Farrer, who was a 1950s, 60s senior Anglican theologian. He wrote some very good stuff, particularly his commentary on the Book of Revelation. And then Gordon Fee, much more up to date, as to be fair, most of my library is up to date. And then we've got a whole section by Roger Forster, one of Britain's great pastor theologians, leader of a network. And then we've got the section by Terence Fretheim, again a favourite of mine. Then we've got even a section here by Billy Graham, but we've got my Donald G selection, great Pentecostal theologian of the first generation, one of the original British Pentecostal leaders, a guy who was very instrumental in getting ecumenism going in the 20th century. We've got a section here by Michael Heiser, recently deceased, great Christian student of the Old Testament in particular, and ancient Hebraic and Egyptian languages, things like that. Great bloke, some great ideas there. As we move along, we're going through the H's. Just because he's fallen from grace, I haven't thrown away my Bill Hybels books. Sometimes people can upset you in their latter days, but still have written important things in their former days. So going along here, we're still on H's, I's, J's and K's. So my Elizabeth Kubler-Ross books are all down there as well. So having got as far as K, in the centre here, before we cross over to the other side, are my journals. Well, at the top there's liturgies for marriage, because I do occasionally marry people. But then we've got journals, so my Catholic Biblical Quarterlies, which are very good journals, and a whole range of other ones, the Journal of Pentecostal Theology, the Journal of Pentecostal and Charismatic Studies, and in between various other books that have come along through the years. Some of them have stopped being published now, but others are still going on. COVID had a big impact on journals. Then there's my systematic theology range, which, how many systematic theologies does a guy need? Well, obviously, I've got more than I need. It's helpful, it's useful, it gives you insight into other people's worldviews. You can see how people from a different background have formulated a different systematic theology. So those are there. Where we don't show you shelves, it's mainly because it's just connection of journal articles in Lever Arch files, where I haven't got the journal, but I've got various articles. Okay, so we're starting now at the very top. We're going along through the alphabet, carrying on where we left off. So there's some L's. We're going on to M's. A few British authors that you Americans may not come across. Jeff Lucas, he is a really good British guy, and he has written some great stuff. Also, Nick Page is coming up. Nick Page has done some great work. Neither of these men would you call them theologians, but these are men who are really doing a lot of hard spade work into the scriptures, and they produce some excellent work. Going along this shelf, we've got everything from Eric Metaxas through Henry Newen, and going along into Tom Ord, and some of you may have questions about him, so do I, but he has written some stuff that's helpful to understand where people are going in their thinking. I have to say to you, not every book that I've got I have because I agree with it. There are some books which are very helpful to understand where you are as a person in your thinking and why people have different views. This has all got value. So as we move along, we've got a number of other P's going into Peterson. Now, Peterson's got a whole shelf, because I don't know how anybody can get through life without a whole shelf of Eugene Peterson. Fabulous guy. And then we move on to the R's, Christopher Rowland, for example, Richard Raw, and some interesting ones that you just wonder where they're from. But for example, I've got a couple of books by Willie Riley, who was a 20th century Methodist, and a friend of mine did his dissertation on Willie Riley, and I picked those books up as recommendations from him. And then as we go along, we find there are more of the essays coming in. When we come back to this end of the room, we've got books by Schnell, a great 400th anniversary biographies of Calvin, which are extremely revealing and may make you think twice about him. Along here, we've got John Stott, again, a great British guy who's left us some great things to chew on. And as we carry on, we start with the T's. So I've got something written by Hudson Taylor, the great missionary to China. Also things like Torrey and Tenney, great names like that. We go into the U's and the W's. So John Walton, for example, not related to John Boy Walton. I'm talking about the Genesis theologian. I've got Whitfield's journals. I've got a great range of books by Ben Witherington that are on a separate shelf to his commentaries, which were round the corner. In fact, there's quite a lot of books by Ben Witherington. He is one of the most profound authors of the modern age. Then Tom Wright, who I would love to say would like to be Ben Witherington. I don't think he's got quite as many books out as Ben Witherington, but of course Tom Wright has a tremendous force for good in theology. As we come to the end of the W's, we tend to slow down because we're running out of letters of the alphabet. I do have a bit of Philip Yancey, just in case you wonder if I do have some sections again on philosophy, section on feminist issues, women in the church, presenting both sides, transgenderism, Christian answer to that, and then a whole section on Christian sexuality and, of course, the impact of homosexuality, which there are so many books written on those subjects, most of which are very, very good. Then as we go to the very bottom, we find that there's a section on the IVP dictionaries, which are great big chunky books. And that's more or less it. Without going around with a fine tooth comb, that's very much my library. As I'm filming this, I have 3,100 volumes, excluding journals. Journals I count separately, mainly because when I was at Bible college, they told me to list journals separately in the bibliography. So I do that in my library too. But I hope it just gives you a little bit of insight. These books are friends of mine. Some of them, I don't know them intimately, but I've consulted all of them at one time or another. Many of them I've read cover to cover and have got so much from it. And I hope that when I die, I can bequeath this to my successor, which I hope will be someone from my family, so that they get a great start. Just remember, folks, books have a great value. Kindle files, PDFs are wonderful, but having a book in your hand, that's something very special. So that's all I've got for you to see today. It's all I've got to say today. I hope this is good for you, and I hope you will subscribe and like and click on the bell for Pastor's Library, and that way you will be notified as soon as we launch another episode. Until next time, bye!